So hi guys, today Beth and I, this is my friend Beth here in the video, we visited Fort Amherst, which is in Chatham in Kent. I've been here a few times before. I've done some work for the guys here, some of their wedding brochure, because they do weddings and things here now, so, and different events through the year, like a spooky night and ghostly things, and obviously Halloween and things like that. And they also do tunnel tours, all Second World War, to do with sort of just the communications, and to do with the fires and things like that during the Second World War. Obviously it's a very secure place in wartime, underground, and plenty of space to move around in there, and as you'll see as we go through the fort. Utilising the Rotolight EOS for our lighting, which is can be very handy, sort of up to 3 hours worth of full power, and it's lighting the tunnels nicely. These shots here are videoed on the Xperia XZ2 compact mobile phone in 4K. I've actually reduced it down to HD just to match everything else I was filming with at the time, and as you can see, it works really well. It's a little bit scary holding your phone over an actual deep well, but it kind of gave you a good view there of how deep the well is. And in fact there's a shaft that goes above that, so you can actually take water from above ground or from under in the tunnels. And so as you can see, we're walking up through the one of the main tunnels there, and just to the right here is a main shaft, so they would drop down as you go around the corner. They would be able to drop down supplies and things like that from above if they needed to. And then here's a couple of the cannon posts, and sort of more tunnels. God knows how many millions of bricks are in this place. It's unbelievable. It's in pretty good condition in a lot of it, but then there's a part of it which we're going to see in a second that is unrestored, so it's been left alone I think since the 1960s, not been touched since. So I found it fascinating up there, but this bit here is where they do the tours at the moment. So onto the unrestored area. As you can see here, it's a lot more derelict, and here I'm using the mobile phone on the gimbal, as you can see there, and I've actually put a tripod mount onto, a quick release anyway, onto the top of the Rotolight EOS, and the gimbal sits right on top, so it works quite well. This is the footage straight from the phone. I haven't edited this at all. Not added any more smoothing or stabilisation via the film, and I was quite impressed with it. I just need to I need to learn to walk a little bit more sort of less bouncy. As you can see, just a little bit of movement up and down from me. Other than that, I was really quite impressed with it. And obviously the light is literally underneath the phone. You can see here there's random graffiti, and obviously some of it is not particularly politically correct in modern day, but really interesting building. There's Beth in front of the camera again, but she found it fascinating at school. It was really cool out, just have a nose around really, yeah. So anybody who is a bit of an urban explorer, it's worth actually contacting the fort, because they've had quite a few break-ins, which obviously people are decided they want to go and have a look, and a lot of damage as well. So if you do want to go and have a look, go and speak to them, because they'd much rather you went in there with their permission to have a look around. And also, obviously, if there's no damage done, including padlocks being cut and things like that. So it's worth having a chat. Really nice people, and they're happy for people to have an explore if that's what you're into. This was actually shot on the A7R3 with the 14mm Samyang f2.8. No lighting, so only the ambient light there. But as you can see there, you can see my footsteps a little bit more clearly, but not stabilised at all. I was trying to be as light-footed as possible, but it's still pretty smooth. I was quite impressed with that. But you can see my footsteps there. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But as you can see, the dynamic range of the 35mm sensor compared to a mobile phone is huge, much different. So this is one of the shafts, looking straight up at it, and they've got the colours going on there. sort of spiralling through. I think it's about 50 feet up, so we're 50 or 60 feet up maybe to where the actual the hatch was. But that's where they would lower obviously things down or up from underground. And there's 2 of those shafts. And this shot here is actually a 3 photo merge with the shaft up above you, and then sort of 2 main tunnels in front. So to get that in was actually, I was quite pleased with that. It worked really well. There you can go. So you can see the main shaft straight up, and then so it was actually 3 photos. So looking up at the shaft, bringing the camera down a little bit, and then down again, level, and then using Photoshop I merged it together, and it worked really well actually. There you go. So looking down the tunnels, the brickwork is incredible. Just the architecture and stuff are so random, but it's so interesting to see the way some of the bricks are obviously a lot older than the others, and they've added things in. That's the shaft there again. I think we get a bit of light on it. There we go. So you can see there, obviously a modern day cover on there, so you can't obviously get in from there or fall in. But as you can see there, it's quite a long way down, and just have a little walk around. I see some steps up here. I didn't actually go up here, but it was quite obviously it's obviously designed to be used quite a lot because it's quite a wide staircase. But that's a shot done. There you go. So there's no extra lighting in that shot at all. I didn't use anything else. It was literally just the ambient light from any of the lights that are in the tunnels there. And it worked quite nicely. But like I say, it's crazy how the shapes of the brickwork's been built. And some graffiti. It's obviously scratched into the chalk there. There's quite a few, but 1899 was one of them. There was some others there, plus obviously a few modern ones where people have scratched in. So this is into one of the smaller tunnels, sort of hidden away, and it's quite interesting. It's quite a smooth floored tunnel. It's quite sandy, and we were just sort of walking around. Completely dark in there, no light source whatsoever. Very good for the spiders, big spiders, really big spiders. We only spotted one, a good sized one. Apparently they're even bigger than the ones we found there. Good couple of egg sacs as well, and yeah, so that was quite interesting. And then there's also the cannons, loads and loads of cannons ready to be restored and hopefully put back into where they should be, sort of on their sort of, I don't know what you call it, I suppose their plinth or their brackets or whatever they need to be sat on to make them sort of look like they're a proper cannon again. But that's in one of the big ditches there, which was quite cool. Right, here's one of the big spiders I was talking about. Probably about 2.5 inches long in total. Doesn't look absolutely huge there, but actually when I get a bit closer you'll be able to see. The only time I've ever seen spiders this sort of big in England was down at Cheddar Gorge in one of the caverns there, and it looks a very similar looking spider, but he's big. I think if he bit you, you'd know about it. And it was time. Beth was like, "It's time to go." So yeah, but there's quite a few other spider webs and bits and pieces around. So off we went, back outside, back down the tunnel. But like I say, there's no light source in here whatsoever. Completely dark. Obviously relying on the AOS to light us up nice and clear. It's perfect sort of smooth lighting there, which worked really well. Obviously you can change the colour temperature and brightness and do other things like special effects, lightning and TV flicker and fire flicker and things like that. So I use it all the time, it's brilliant. And yeah, so just trying to work out how to get out. Another staircase there, and off we went. So yeah, that was quite cool. That was let's say very dark in there. Couple of sort of light holes or light to access, or air holes maybe, just like a little bit of light in, but dead ends everywhere. So are there hidden tunnels behind that show you do they go further? Like this one here is obviously a bricked up wall, with obviously a tunnel that goes further of some sort, but you know. So back to the outside part of the unrestored section. There's just a few photos now, and these are all done with the A7R3 with the Samyang 14mm wide angle, and yeah, it works really well. I did have a 15mm Sigma fisheye, and I used to love that lens, and it's not. This isn't quite as wide. A little bit less distortion as well. This shot here is Beth at the top of the stairs, just shining the AOS down, and I'm shooting straight at it, just to just a bit of interest really, just to show how rough the walls are, you know, where the bricks aren't perfect. You can see there a little bit of rubble at the bottom of that staircase, and as it went round and up, a little bit of graffiti there as well, and you know, that's it really. These lots and lots of staircases, lots of tunnels, and you know, it's obviously some of it in better condition than others. Very dry everywhere though. I was expecting, when I've been into Second World War tunnels and things like that, and bunkers and stuff, they've been flooded. This isn't. I guess it's due to the chalk and stuff like that. Maybe that helps drain it. But I guess also it's in use as well. It does help. Lots of big holes where things have been smashed through or blown through with explosive things. I did hear one rumour, I don't know how true it is, that some squaddies back in the sort of 60s or whatever managed to blow the roof off. That was one thing I was told. I thought it might have been a Second World War bomb, but yeah, who knows. This was down in another area, sort of out into the wooded area that's been sort of trimmed back a bit now because they're trying to tidy it up. But I wanted to get in there really before they do tidy it up completely and make it, not say less boring, but make it feel less rubbly and less sort of derelict, which will be good at some point. But at the moment it's just got, you know, it's just rubble everywhere, old brickwork that's fallen down, you know, like this here with the vines and everything growing out the other side of the window. It looks really kind of like it hasn't been touched. Here's one shot from the camera. You can see there sort of a dip down into sort of underground. It's just interesting. I find it fascinating that some of these old buildings, you know, the fact they're not being used anymore, and you know, they're just sitting there doing nothing, which is a real shame. But it's history. It's some of our history, and it is interesting. You know, old buildings like this, how they were built and things like that. It must have been, you know, there's a lot involved. So, and you know, what were they certain rooms used for? You know, were they just you know, for armory, for ammo and things like that, or you know, were they, you know, for people to sort of stay and sleep in and things like that? But these here, you know, some of the architecture though is they've actually put effort into the architecture. It wasn't just you know, just a makeshift thing. It was done properly, you know, with some serious thought, and the curves and the roofs and things like that. And even the way I saw one groove in one of the rooms that had a fireplace in it, and the way the ceiling was designed to actually pull some of the hot gases out and the smoke out of the room. So things like that obviously came into thought. But you got two almost like cupboards on the right hand side there that I don't know, it was bizarre. They weren't particularly deep, but you know, but large rooms. Camera dealing with everything pretty well. I did light some of them, but then I did just use natural light coming in, and just to get the feel of, you know, how it was for us, you know, as we saw it as with our eyesight. You know, tried to keep it as real as possible, real feeling as possible. Like the shot here, you know, looking out through the vines, and then walking. This has come back into the complete darkness again. But the AOS on, and then as we walked around the corner, I noticed there's a few butterflies, and you can't really see them, but they're red admiral. You might see one now just up on the ceiling there. A couple of them sort of roosting, as if, I suppose, a bit like bats, upside down. Don't know what they were doing. It's quite cool in there, so not really sure. This is somewhere they sort of sleep overnight. And then obviously once it warms up they go back out into the sunshine, but something different. Here was one of the rooms. It was probably the worst one or one of the worst ones for graffiti. Obviously some quite either inappropriate or non-PC graffiti. Some random names as well. So obviously the sort of mentality of certain people. Obviously not that inventive, and pretty pointless if you ask me. But yeah. So that's not modern, and neither's that. Yeah. So a lot of it's not particularly very nice, and obviously quite offensive to some people, and as you can sort of understand. But yeah, as we had to wander around a bit more, as you can see, sort of a few things to try and stop people and animals getting in and out. You can see the butterflies there on the right hand side. It was about 10 maybe. Didn't actually see the ones above us until I've just seen the video. And then just some shots as well, utilising the Rotolight EOS just for the light really. It was just really cool. Just shows how much light comes down the tunnel, just a little bit bouncing off that wall on the left. And there's Beth walking down the tunnel away from me, and it worked quite nicely. She's just holding the EOS in her hand and lighting her way, and I was left in the dark. This is where Beth was actually round the corner through the archway and round to the left, and she was shining back in. So I had a little bit of ambient light coming through the mesh of the window, but then obviously a lot of light coming from the house as well. And this one here is just a random big old can of some sort. Don't know if it's a petrol can or something like that originally, but it's obviously very old. And the brickwork there was obviously flaking the whitewash or whatever was coming off, or plaster. But there's lots and lots of tunnels, and it's weird because they're never really straight. They were all a bit sort of wonky, and they sort of weaved around and things like that. And obviously passages went off different places, and there's lots of dead ends and things like that. Like say, like this random one here, it's obviously designed as I'm guessing to let light in of some sort through into the tunnel. Not really sure, but partly damaged. And yeah, so that was a good little look around there. Great little explore, great sort of day out, which we really enjoyed. Beth really found it quite interesting. I think something she's never done before, and she had a good look around and was just interested in the sort of way it was, and obviously the fact that a lot of it is derelict, hasn't been sort of tarted up or anything, like this. The brickwork's just there, just laying on the ground. It's obviously just been knocked through, and so really adds to the photos. I think the little bit of a bit more sort of rugged and a bit more damage. This one's good here. This is the XZ2 Xperia mobile phone, shooting in almost darkness. Literally, that's like a very small light there. That's not really giving us much light at all. And I was really quite impressed how well that dealt with almost darkness. Really quite impressed. Couldn't really see the floor very well when you walked up the stairs. So as it comes through into this big, large room here, there was 2 fireplaces, and as you can see, that one at the end is well used, and then a couple of gun emplacements for the cannons. Great view down towards the docks there. As you can see here, it's amazing how the camera picks up so much more detail that your naked eye can't see, even with a light on. All the sort of detail and the brickwork and things like that, especially the graffiti, we could spot that you couldn't really see without the camera. In the naked eye you couldn't really see it. It was just the way the light was, and yeah, it worked really well, so quite pleased with that. So some fab shots, and yeah, random coffin and a grave dug out, but as you can see there, it's not quite normal. That's actually from a film. So there's some filming going on. It's to do with the new movie called The Nun. It's coming out, I think, in only a couple of days. So 2018 September. There's a promo. I'll put a promo clip link in the description. Have a quick nose of that, and you can see. And then I just did one last little clip, just trying the gimbal out, really, just walking along with it in the going through the plants and the flowers there. And I spotted a bee on the flower, and missed the focus completely. I needed to bring the camera down and right a bit. So like I say, I'm just playing with it, trying to learn how to use the gimbal, while I'm walking and stuff like that. and just to add to the videos really, so a little bit smoother footage. But that's it, guys. So yeah, if you enjoyed that, please click the subscribe button, and I shall see you soon.